What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. As always, I'm Jack Bushman here with Joey Ricotta. Make sure to go and give him a follow on X at Joey Knows Nothing. You can find me at Jack Bushman2 for the show's page. Check out at Golf on Tap. Joey, we got the Worldwide Technology Championship as the PGA Tour FedEx Cup Fall is back this week after a little bit of a Halloween break. Hope everyone who's tuning in had themselves a lovely Halloween. And if you are tuning in with us right off the jump, be sure to hop on over to the YouTube feed to let us know who you're going to be tailing, who you're going to be fading for this week's Worldwide Technology Championship. As Joey, the PGA Tour heads to Mexico. El Cardonal Golf Course at Diamante Resort in Cabo San Lucas became the host venue of this tournament last year. We saw Erik van Rooyen take it down with a great Sunday charge to win at minus 27. Poor Matt Kuchar looked like he had the tournament going into the weekend, but had a quadruple bogey on Saturday that really derailed things for him. It's not the prettiest field, which is not surprising for this time of year, but another PGA Tour event. We're going to try to pick off a winner. 3 tournaments left before the end of the calendar year. Hopefully we can get at least one outright winner, maybe even 2. Joey back again this week. A little bit of a heartbreaker for yours truly last time at the Zozo as somehow Justin Thomas wasn't able to outduel Nico Echeverria on Sunday down the stretch, which, let me tell you, was a painful late night Saturday watch. Stayed up till about 1 a.m. to watch Justin Thomas miss 5 or 6 putts within 10 feet. Putter went absolutely ice cold on Sunday. No harm, no foul. We're back here again. How are the vibes on this Tuesday afternoon, my friend?
Vibes were good, but hearing your story, that kind of brings it down a little bit. I'm sorry, man. I know that was brutal to watch for you, and just want to know how many beers that you had to consume late night, close to bar time hour watching that. Like, did you have a couple to drink after that, or did you just call it yeah, it's not my day, we're going to bed, fuck this day?
I had hopes the entire way. I was watching him miss putt after putt after putt. I thought eventually he was going to be due to get one in, and it just never wound up happening. I didn't have any cold ones after, but I did have a long look up at the ceiling in my bed as I was wondering how in the world Justin Thomas literally got outdueled by Nico frickin' Echeverria. But
Crazy.
It happens. It's the name of the game. We're back again, though, this week, my man. Like I said, not the prettiest of fields to break down, as there's only 3 players inside the top 50 of the official world golf ranking that are here. Those 3 are Lucas Glover, who's been on a nice little run, Max Grazerman, who had his 3rd runner-up in his past 5 starts, another close call for him, and then probably the most notable name in this tournament, a man who was here last year, and my dumbass actually bet on him 14-1, none other than Mr. Cameron Young, still looking for his first PGA Tour victory, making his first appearance of the FedEx Cup Fall. Going to be interested to see who you go through here at the top of the betting board, Joey. But before we get there, want me to give a little bit of a rundown as to my course breakdown, just for anyone who's tuning in and want a little bit more information on El Cardonal and what I'm looking for in particular this week out of players?
Absolutely, man. That's what we're here for. I usually try to tune in with your guys' show or watch it a little bit after, maybe the day after, and sometimes we end up kind of combining shows. But yeah, man, let's hear. What are you looking for this week?
Yeah, usually when Ross and I jump on here on a Tuesday, I'll preview things a little bit, but Ross was unfortunately not able to go today, which, I mean, with this being the tournament we have and the time of the year, really
Not a terrible time.
Not the end of the world. Yes. So as far as what I'm looking at this week at El Cardonal, we only have 1 year of data as it appeared on the PGA Tour for the first time last year, and gotta mention it was the first PGA Tour course ever designed by Tiger Woods that was featured on the PGA Tour. But just plain and simply, Joey, it's the easiest course that these guys are going to play all year long. I mentioned Erik van Rooyen won at minus 27, and the reason for that is because there's just no real challenge out there for these level of players. Joey, this course was designed for me and you to be out there when we're on vacation in Cabo San Lucas and putting our feet up for a couple of days and just want to go and get 18 in real quick. 60-yard wide fairways on average, the widest fairways the PGA Tour players will see. It's pretty similar to a couple of weeks ago at the Black Desert Championship, and then the greens are absolutely massive. guys hit, 90% of fairways and 80% of greens on average last year. So there's no real trouble because there is so much room to work with. The only potential difficulty would be if the winds were to pick up because the course is located just a stone's throw away from the Pacific Ocean. But it doesn't look like any of that is in the forecast, at least as of now. So I'd expect this to be, you can't even really call it a birdie fest. You got to call it a birdie bonanza or something because minus 20 is usually what we're talking about when we're thinking birdie fest. This, I think, is going to surpass minus 25 for the second consecutive year. There's four par fives on the course, all of them within reach and 2 shots for most of these guys because the course plays firm. And it's so dry out there in Mexico. Par fours, none of them are really all that daunting in terms of distance. 6 of the 10 are over 460 yards, but none of them are pushing over the 500-yard plateau or anything crazy. So looking at a lot of approach for this week because, Joey, quite honestly, most of these players shouldn't have any issue with hitting the fairways, right? Like, guys are going to be hitting from pretty similar spots because the landing zones are just so wide. So quite honestly, I took driving really out of play this week. I'm just hammering in on approach, guys who've been hitting their irons real well, looking at the 125 to 200 yard proximity bucket because not only is that where a majority of the par fours are going to come from, most of the par threes are going to come in that range as well. There's only one par three that eclipses 200 yards. And then you have the par fives, which are 2 shot holes in and alone of themselves. So really just looking at scoring, birdie or better, approach play in the last 24 rounds, last 12 rounds as well. Guys who can make birdies in bunches, guys who take advantage of the par fives. I do think it's, of course, worth noting that this course features paspalum putting surfaces and is paspalum throughout, and that's kind of a rarity on the PGA Tour. You mostly see it at courses that are right around the coast because paspalum handles salt really well throughout the course of a season. But when you go and look at some of the data for paspalum courses, most of them you don't get the shot tracker numbers from. That's just unfortunately how the PGA Tour somehow still works in the year 2024. We don't
Don't
have shot
understand.
tracker at every single golf course. So it's a little tricky to parse through like who putts well on paspalum and who does well on these types of surfaces. So you kind of got to go back and look at some of the leaderboards from past events like the Puerto Rico Open or the Corrales Punta Cana Championship. The Mexico Open at Vedanta Vallarta, I think, is a course that you can look at. And I think that's the only, in terms of most of the data, what's the word I'm looking for? The place like a Rick Rungood or a Fantasy National, the data trackers, that's the Mexico Open is really the only one where they can get the true information from. So some of the numbers can be a little wonky there, but I'm looking at guys who have done well at those coastal events, like I mentioned, Corrales, Puerto Rico, Mexico, but really just hammering in on a approach and birdie making this week because I think that's really going to be the difference making putting guys who can rack up birdies in bunches because you're just going to have to get to that minus 25, minus 26 number, Joey. That's the name of the game this week.
Big time. I'm glad you said that. That was one of the main things I was focused on was just birdie or better, guys that can go low, because you're going to need it this week. And approach definitely. And I did factor in distance and off the tee a little bit. I know the making the fairway or missing fairways is not going to be an issue this week. There's very little rough, if any at all. So, I mean, we're not really going to be worried about that and making greens at all either this week. But distance was something I factored in. Maybe it gives them a little bit of an edge. But yeah, for the most part, you're spot on. I mean, you can't really go on course history. This is a 1-year type of thing now. And also, like you said, the shot link data, we didn't have it last year, and we're probably not going to get it this year. Over here, I assume, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I haven't looked at anything.
We did get it at the Zozo this year, and I believe we hadn't had it in years past. So there's hope, but
it'd be nice though. I hope they do. I mean, like you said, why not? There's no real reason to not have it. This course, like you said, Tiger Woods designed it's like Tiger Woods designed it as a retirement course to bring like his buddies that aren't golfers to, and just like dick around, and just a little resort course for him to just hang out and have a little vacation and fun with his friends. But here we are with PGA Tour golfers having a tournament here, and that doesn't make it the most fun. I mean, anytime you have like Max Gracerman as the outright favorite, it's kind of a bozo tournament. And I mean, like, that's nothing bad against him. Like, he's got great recent form. He's been great off the tee, putting, birdie or better, has the distance. Like, he's kind of a perfect fit actually for here. But I mean, come on, Cam Young. Like, if honestly, it's just so surprising too when you look at him and you're like, man, he still doesn't have a win. Like, how many times has he been kind of up in the tier of like top tier or just under from a betting odds standpoint on more difficult courses than this and better fields than this, and he still doesn't have a win. So I mean, I don't see it being here that it's going to happen because it's a bozo week. So there's no way I'm starting the card towards the top, Jack, but I'm very interested to see kind of what you're doing here.
Yeah, it is a very interesting top of the betting board. One thing I do want to add real quick before we get there, you mentioned driving distance. I made two models for this tournament this week, and one of them I did weigh in driving distance a little bit. That was the only driving statistic I looked at. When looking back at the leaderboard from last year, it didn't really seem to make much of a difference in terms of like who or no player type really seemed to have an advantage in terms of bombers or short game specialists or anything. But I did look at driving distance in one of my models, so I did want to preface that. And yeah, with this golf course, it just kind of feels like I don't think Tiger designed this with the idea that it was going to be a PGA Tour event. It just kind of happened that the course that they were at for this event, which was El Camaleon at Mayakoba, that was designed by Greg Norman, who's of course affiliated with Live Golf. So the PGA Tour wanted to cut ties with that golf course. They didn't have to move the tournament out of the area because, oh, well, Tiger Woods also happens to have a golf course down the road. So I think that's how El Cardonal stumbled its way onto the PGA Tour, and that's how we lead to the easiest tournament on the PGA Tour schedule, at least what I expect it to be because it was last year. But moving on to the top of the betting board here is where you're going to start going through things. You mentioned Max Gracerman leading things off. That's how you know it's a bozo event. 16-1, Cam Young 18-1, Doug Gim 22, Matty Schmid 22, and then we'll go Bo Hostler and Harris English, both at 25 to round things out. The top six. You got any of them on your card this week, Joey, or any thoughts on any of them at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously I do like where Grazerman's at form wise. I just hate that number in a tournament where I feel like you're going to have to be pretty much perfect, where a lot of guys are just going to have really good weeks, and I can't find myself getting to that price there. So I'm starting my card here at Matty Schmid, who Schmid is 28-1 at the enhanced price at Rivers, and I haven't bet it yet, but that's where I'm gonna end up starting. I think one of the guys I saw in your model, Jack, I think it had, and at least in one of the models, I had him at number one, I believe. Not to take away anything you're gonna say here, but I definitely saw that as well. But I was looking at what he's been doing lately. He can nuke it off the tee. We know that he nukes it like a motherfucker. Excuse my language. T16 or better in all three of his October events. So top fives at both the Shriners and Black Desert. Just good lately across the board, really, in the main categories that I'm after this week, especially off the tee. So, yeah, I believe in him. I think 28-1 is actually a really good price to get for a starting point this week. I don't hate that. What are you thinking, Jack?
Yeah, no, I don't hate the Matty Schmid call whatsoever. He's very popular this weekend for a good reason. Off the tee, you mentioned, can absolutely crush it. He will have the distance advantage and give himself a lot of short irons in and should be able to reach all of the par fives in two shots. The biggest change for him has been with the putter, man. He's gone to the broomstick putter these last handful of months, and seems like it's finally starting to pay dividends for him like it's done for so many players over these last couple of years who we've seen go to the Adam Scott style putter, excuse me. I definitely thought about Matty Schmid. I did look at some of his past stats, and they weren't all that eye popping to me. That could
Mm,
lead to me being off of him. But again, the one thing that's you got to consider about that, it wasn't when he was putting like he is right now. So he's certainly a different player at this stage of his career. I am thinking about Matty Schmidt. Basically, the rest of my card is going to be dictated by the decision I still have to make up top. I know where I'm going in the middle tier. I know which long shots I want to go to. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do up top, but the two that were the most intriguing to me was Max Grazerman, 16 to 1. If he was 20, I probably would have already bet it. Playing so well. He doesn't pop out in the models as he's still top 10 in both of my models, but the reason he's not number one is a couple of events where the irons weren't very good, but in the three runner-up finishes that he's had, the irons were fantastic, and he legitimately might be the best putter on the PGA Tour. The putting numbers are absolutely insane. Rates super high in birdie or better. Top five there and top five in par five scoring. Good historically on slow greens. Dude, these putting numbers are insane. Gained 10.3 strokes at the Zozo, six and a
sheesh.
half strokes at the BMW, 2.5 strokes at the FedEx St. Jude. Those were the two events where his irons were bad. Still finished inside the top 35 in both of those, which were FedEx Cup playoff events against the best players on the PGA Tour. And then the two runner-ups that he had at the 3M Open in the Wyndham, he gained 6.5 strokes putting at Sedgefield and then 7.5 strokes putting at TPC Twin Cities. So he's got the putting upside for sure to get him there, striking the ball really well off the tee too. So I am thinking about Max Grazerman up top. It's just tough to get to him at 16 to 1 again in this type of field where you know you're going to need 4 good rounds out of him to get to that number. It's a little bit tough, but I am thinking about him. The other guy I'm thinking about the most too is Harris English. There was a 28 to 1 out there, I believe, on Bet Rivers Enhanced. He's got back to back top 10s in his last two starts, one of those being at the Black Desert Championship, which I think is going to set up pretty similarly to this in terms of just wide open fairways, pretty easy to hit greens. I think this tournament might play a little bit easier than that because the wind gust will be down a little bit more. But I think they're the same style of tournaments. The one thing that's concerning about Harris English is the irons haven't been great. He's been doing it a lot by putting. It hasn't been the combination upside like we've seen from a Max Grazerman, but Harris has finished in the top 10 twice. I think he's a better pedigree than most of the players, basically all of the players who are also in this field. And one thing I do want to mention as well, in 2021, he won the Century Tournament of Champions at Kapalua, which has wide open fairways, a lot of sloped lies, which is one thing I forgot to mention that you're going to see a decent amount of this week. So there are some comps between Kapalua just being wide open and super gettable. You usually see a winning score around 27 to 30 under because guys just tear it apart. That is one thing I considered with Harris English. So those are kind of the two guys that I'm in between at the top. But I am thinking I'm leaning more Grazerman than Harris English at this point in time. But a lot of tough decisions to make at the top of this betting board. I think that's really what you got to dictate in order to make up your card. But moving on from that top 6 range that I just mentioned, got Ben Griffin at 28, Harry Hall at 28, Maverick McNeely at 28, and then JJ Spawn, Keith Mitchell, Killa Keith, the Glove, Lucas Glover, and then Johnny Vegas and Sam Stevens at 33 to 1. You got anyone in the group of guys that I just mentioned?
Wow. Spawn was actually kind of catching my eye there.
Yeah.
Spawn just a lot of the main categories too. Like I was just saying about Matty Schmid and these guys.
Approach numbers have been awesome for Spawn. Incredible in the fall.
Yeah. He looks solid, and I just don't know if I'm kind of worried if I avoid him here. But at the same time, I'm not gonna. I don't know. I got some decisions to make in this range because I haven't pulled the trigger on anybody. Let's see, because there's a few guys like him, and then Killa Keith, like you said. I mean, it's not. Yeah, I've kind of swayed away from him lately, but he's still my boy. He's interesting. I think the birdie or better. I think he can. He's a striper off the tee, like we already know that. He had a couple of really horrendous events in a row.
He's been so bad since he had that blown opportunity at the Sanderson Farms.
Yeah, it's been terrible, really. I just find it hard to believe that, even though with the struggle, um, I find it hard to believe he'll struggle that much here, and that's completely like I have nothing to go off of with that other than like I just don't think he's completely lost it since gaining, you know, strokes almost across the board at Sanderson and the Pro Core and at Wyndham's Championship. So it's like two really bad events in a row. I don't want to I know I'm talking about recent form a lot with some of these guys, but like I hate just looking solely at recent form when you throw in an event like this, because this is truly just an event where somebody can get hot and just take it to the house. And so Keith Mitchell's another interesting name there, along with JJ Spawn. And how far did you go as far as the odds go? Did you
33-1. I stopped at Vegas and Stevens.
Vegas and Stevens? Okay, so that's pretty much it in that range. I think you know yeah, that's pretty much it in that range. I know Lucas Glover pedigree wise, like somebody who can do pretty good too. There were a couple numbers I was looking at that I thought could really fit for this course, but he's so hot or cold too. But yeah, I don't know. Did you get anybody here?
Yeah, I really like this range a lot. I thought about JJ Spawn. I mentioned the irons have been spectacular. One of the best players in the field in strokes gained approach over the past 12 rounds. I just don't think I can trust the putter. He also doesn't have great numbers historically on past Palom courses. And also, I've never been a JJ Spawn better, and I just don't think now's really the time for me. I also thought about Harry Hall, who I've been on a couple of times in the fall. He actually rated out number one in my second model this week.
Ooh,
Gives Max Grazerman a run for the best putter on the PGA Tour. Has been on fuego with the putter. Not sure if I trust the irons enough to win this event. So I thought about Spawn. I thought about Hall. I don't think I'm going to go there. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to Lucas Glover. There's a 30-1 out there right now on Glover, and I just think that's too good of a number for a player of his pedigree, a guy who his last win was a FedEx Cup playoff event, and it feels like whenever Lucas Glover goes on a run, like he stays on that run. Like you see the signs coming for Lucas Glover. We saw it coming before the back-to-back wins. That's why I was lucky enough to be on the win at St. Jude, and with the back-to-back T3s, the iron game has returned to being absolutely unbelievable. And it was actually a statistical anomaly, Joey, that he didn't win the Black Desert Championship. I think he's one of three players since they started tracking strokes gain data to gain 13 or more strokes on approach in a single tournament and not win the event. The putter just really let him down. He lost 2.7 strokes in that tournament, but had gained at least 3.5 strokes in each of his prior two starts, has some pretty good history on the tropical style of courses. And like I mentioned, I just think he's a pedigree above most of these players, and you're getting him at 30-1. I think those are really good that's a really good number. And I think I'm also going to get on your boy Johnny Vegas bombs, baby.
mm,
He's showing signs. I was on him at the Shriners, which unfortunately was his worst result of the FedEx Cup fall so far. But other than that, finished T11 at the Zozo Championship last 2 weeks ago, and I mentioned on the show that we did that he was someone that I was potentially eyeing. Finished T23 at the Sanderson Farms Championship. Not like super high end finishes. There's no top tens in there, but that also kind of feels eerily similar to what he was doing before he won at the 3M Open. Like he only had a T20 as his best result in his three starts, where he was kind of showing some signs that he could be trending in the right direction. There wasn't like that T3 or T5 huge warning sign. And I think we're getting back to that. And the reasons I feel that way with Johnny Vegas is because the irons, the ball striking remains unbelievable. The irons have been exquisite. 3.7 strokes gained last time out at the Zozo Championship, which was the best field of the fall, had some legitimate names, and for him to gain that many strokes, I think is super notable. And then also, he's gained noteworthy strokes putting in 3 of his last 4, and that was kind of the one thing you pointed out prior to his victory. He had that one blip where he gained over 4 strokes putting in Canada. 2 starts later, he winds up winning at TPC Twin Cities. So another guy who I think just in this 33-1 range right here that you're getting a really good number on. in just what the field strength is. Johnny Vegas is a proven PGA Tour winner. Yeah, the one that he had this past year was his first in like 6 years, but someone who is one of the best ball strikers in this field, and you're getting them at a good number. So those were the two guys that I went with in this range, and there are a lot of intriguing options there.
Sometimes that's all it takes too, is just to get that one back after it's been a while, and then maybe you just start going on a run. And I think you're making really great points about Johnny Vegas too, with the putting and how he's been looking lately. And I gotta say, shout out to you for the Zozo, man. Like, you had a lot of really, like, I'm not just talking about JT, but like legitimately you had a ton of guys up there near the top.
I had 3, 4, and 5. I had JT in third, Kurt Kitayama in fourth, Ricky Fowler in fourth, Kurt Kitayama in fifth. Tough.
Yeah, I was just looking at that leaderboard and I'm like, well, Jack's got a shot, Jack's got a shot, Jack's got a shot. Like every single golfer towards, heading into Sunday or Saturday was like, yeah, Jack's got a shot. But
I got to toot my own horn on one thing. I did say I think this is a good time to be early on Justin Thomas. Even though he didn't win, seemed like a good call. And I also said feels like a good buy low spot on Ricky Fowler. Ricky's starting to get it going. Hopefully that good mojo will translate into actual cash this week, though, Joey.
Yeah, but I mean, overall too, like what do we always say? It's the process.
It's the process, brother. I trust the process. I really do.
Yeah, I know. I'm a firm believer in it. It's led us to success over the 2-3 years we've been doing this show now, or however long is it. How long has it been, Jack?
It's been
2.
I think 2. Maybe just over. Oh, well, in the fall. Yeah, it's been 2 years. It's been
started in the fall, right?
Since we've been doing the show. Yeah. Well, we sprinkled it a little bit before then, but really consistently when it started was the fall of 2022.
Okay. Yeah.
At the Zozo Championship, you used Tommy Fleetwood as your one and done.
Stop.
I'll never let you forget it.
Stop.
Right, anyways, we gotta get back to this tournament.
Train back on the tracks here.
Back to this crummy tournament. Getting to this 35, we'll go 35 to 45 range here. Got Eric Van Rooyen, Matt Kuchar, Taylor Moore, and Tom Mr. Hoagie Buns at 35. Austin Eckroat, Daniel Berger, Patty Fishburne, the Big Tuna at 40. Patrick Rogers, Rico Hoy at 40 as well. And then Michael Kim at 45. Got any of the guys that I just listed off?
Very interested in Daniel Berger this week.
My boy. The vibes.
Yeah. That's why I need you to tell me about him, Jack. Did you look into him this week? Because I'm there. I'm not quite. I feel like the approach is better. Yeah, I'm not quite there yet, but it's kind of in the same decision making that I'm trying to make between him, Keith Mitchell, and what was the other name that we said there?
JJ Spawn.
And JJ Spawn, yeah. Those are my decisions I'm trying to make right now. One of those three.
Want my DB breakdown? I did dive into Daniel Berger. I dove into most guys in this tournament, man. I'm a real sicko this week. Daniel Berger is close, and I think he is going to be super motivated these last 3 weeks because he is I think he's 127 in the FedEx Cup standings right now, and if he doesn't get inside the top 125 by the end of the fall, he's going to have conditional status, which is really such a shame for a player of his caliber, but that's just a result of being injured for so long. You got to play well to prove you're still capable of being out there on the PGA Tour. So these are important events for him, and we know when he's right. I mean, he's head and shoulders above all of these guys. He's close. The approach you mentioned has been starting to get good. And there were even blips when he first returned back, like earlier on in the season, where the approach was looking really sharp and the short game was lacking. The short game has started to come around, and that's usually like the thing that takes the longest for players when they return to get again is that short game. That started to come back again. I have a hard time asking Daniel Berger to win this tournament. I think he's still kind of piecing it together in terms of consistency. And the reason I say that is because when you go and look at his round by round basis, and this is honestly, Joey, what separates the best PGA Tour players from guys who aren't on the PGA Tour but are still pros. It's how bad are your bad rounds. And Daniel Berger's bad rounds are still kind of bad right now. And in a tournament like this, you can't have you need to score well in all 4 rounds in order to get to that score. So I'm a huge Daniel Berger fan, one of my favorite players on the PGA Tour. He's the reason why I'm here doing what I am, because I won a bet on Daniel Berger 4 years ago. I just don't think he's ready to win, but there are reasons to believe. I mean, he has a pretty good history on past Palom style courses. The approach numbers have been better. I talked about how this is a meaningful event for him. I expect him to play well. I just don't know if I can ask him to win.
That's totally fair. Yeah. I think that's the thing that let him down too. Last time we saw him at Shriners was kind of the approach and the around the green, but the putting was there. Birdie or better's been pretty damn good too. Off the tee's been great. I'm just like you're seeing the signs of a guy that's getting healthier, and I don't want to say that this is like ahead of the curve, similar to like you were looking at with JT, but I feel like we're going to see it sooner than later with Berger now that we've seen a top 10 recently, and then we've also seen 2 straight top 40s. So will he be able to pull it out this week? Probably really unlikely, but
you're getting good odds.
Yeah, it's not a bad number because I feel like once he starts getting hot, I mean, he might still be in this range when we get stronger fields, but like really, if we had this type of field and it was Daniel Berger like golfing well consistently, he's going to be 10-1.
Yeah, Daniel Berger 2 years ago before the back injury, if he's in this field, he's 8-1.
Mm-hmm.
Easily. I mean, this guy played for the United States in the Ryder Cup 2 Ryder Cups ago.
Yeah,
good player. I think he was top 15 in the world at that point in time.
He's that realm.
So that's who you're thinking of in this range?
Yeah, and then I'm not going to do it. I know you wanted me to do it if he pulled out a win last week or a couple weeks ago. Rico Hoy, 40-1. I'm just gonna keep. Oh yeah, gonna keep riding the train, man. Honestly, that's kind of what it is, and I said that the last time too. But he just hasn't really shown me anything to kind of deter me. Really stayed solid. T22 at the Zozo. I think he can go low enough too, as well. That's kind of the main thing here in a tournament like this. Racks up the birdies, has been great off the tee and on easy courses too. And this is definitely, like you said, the easiest course that we might see this year and did see last year. So, yeah, Rico Hoy at 40-1. That is a bet for sure right now.
Yeah, I'm in on the Rico Hoy train, man. I really believe in this kid's talent. Nearly picked up his first PGA Tour victory at the ISCO Championship earlier on in the year. Bogeyed the 72nd hole, wound up losing out in a playoff. That's a tournament that scoring-wise is kind of similar to this one. Usually the winning scores at like -21, -23. That's as comparable as you can get to this one because this is legit the easiest event. But the numbers are still strong for Rico. Fantastic off the tee, an absolute bomber. Is going to have a lot of short wedges in. The irons have been really good. 3.26 strokes gained at the Shriners Children's Open where he finished T3. The biggest thing, though, for me, I've known he's a good ball striker, and I know he has special talent in those areas. It's been the short game. Like, that's what I've been looking at. And after seeing him at the Rocket Mortgage Classic in Detroit earlier on in the summer, I was like, I got to keep an eye if he figures out the short game, because if he ever does, this kid has the ball striking to win on the PGA Tour, and he really has put the short game together. He's gained around the green in 4 consecutive starts, which isn't going to be in play this week, but I think it just goes to show the strides he's making. And he's also gained with the putter in 3 consecutive events. I do think it is going to be a little bit of a challenge for him to get to that number, but still so talented. And I think, 45-1, really good number for Rico Hoy in his upside. So I'm going there with you on Rico. I'm also thinking about Michael Kim. I'm for sure in on Rico. I'm considering Michael Kim, who is a PGA Tour winner and had one of the lowest scores ever to win a PGA Tour event. I think he won by 9 strokes when he won the John Deere Classic all those years ago. So we know he can go low, and the iron game has slowly been progressing in the right direction. 3 starts ago, he gained 2.7 strokes. The next start, he gained 3.3 strokes with his irons. And then last time out, T5 at the Shriners Children's Open, gained 4.3 strokes as well. Gained strokes in all major categories, as well as 2.3 strokes with the putter. 45-1 feels like a pretty good number. Again, not as sold on Michael Kim as I am Rico Hoy. I'm officially in on Rico Hoy, but those are the 2 guys that I'm considering in this range. I looked at Austin Eckroat a little bit, but don't like the numbers enough. Matt Kuchar is someone I wanted to mention as well. Old man Kuchar should have won this thing had Eric Van Rooyen not gone absolutely nuclear. I think Eric Van Rooyen birdied 7 of the last 9 holes to win this bad boy. But Kuchar always plays well in the fall. Actually has won in Cabo San Lucas before. That was the infamous story of him stiffing his caddy, which is hilarious. But the iron play
Forgot
has
about that,
remained
honestly.
good. Yeah, and on courses where driving doesn't matter, that's where you want Matt Kuchar, because he's a guy who's going to hit the fairway. He doesn't bomb it anymore, but still gets it done with his irons. Still a good putter, one of the best pass palm putters in the entire field. I don't love the 35-1 number, but I do think it's fair. So those are the guys that I'm looking at in this range. Rico Hoy is the official bet, though. Moving down next range, let's go 50 to 70 here before we get to the bombs. Last range, because there are some names. Svensson is at 50. Bridgman, Justin Lauer, and Neil Shipley, big boats, at 55-1. Charlie Hoffman at 60. Nico Echeverria, who stole my money in Japan, is at 60. And then Chandler Phillips at 65, while Joe Highsmith, K.H. Lee, and Patton Kazire are at 70. You got anyone in this range at all? I got one.
Interesting spot here for a couple guys. I know you're probably not on Echeverria, but
no. Makes a lot of sense, though.
Because of what happened, probably, mostly. I don't know, but it does make sense here. I'm not either, actually. Patton Kazire, 70-1. Won the Pro Core Championship in September. And then a good showing, T11, at the Sandy Sun Farms, 22nd in the field in strokes gain on easy courses. Over his last 24 rounds, he's 27th in approach, 31st in strokes gain putting, 10th in birdie or better rate. Does have a win at El Camaleon too, the golf club in 2017, so he can win over here, at least in this area. And when he was, that was when this was at Mayakoba, obviously. He was 15th here last year, gained strokes, tee to green, off the tee, and approach here last year too. So I feel like Kazire is kind of a sneaky good form right now. Like it's not someone who I would just like, if we had a normal week, I'd be looking at him like, oh my God, you see what Patton Kazire is doing. But I'm actually really interested. I feel like 70-1 is a pretty good number here. So that's a bet for me for sure.
Yeah, no, Patton Kazire, one of the most popular this week for sure on the most tip charts. Approach numbers have been really good all throughout the course of the fall. Seen a lot of people tailing him. For me, I'm thinking about getting to Joey Bucket Hats. Joe Highsmith has been putting up some pretty good results, and he's someone who also has made a change with the putter. Hasn't gone to the broomstick. He's flipped to, I think it's a reverse claw grip. It's like a really interesting putter style, but it's worked for him recently. He's gained strokes putting in 4 of his past 6, 3 of them being of at least 2.5 strokes. The iron play has been awesome, gained strokes there, and each of his last 5 had a T6 at the Black Desert Championship. I've referenced the comparison there to El Cardonal, also T16 at the Shriners, T13 at the Pro Course, so is in pretty good form here in the fall. 70-1 feels like a pretty good number. He was also in the final pairing at the Black Desert Championship and, of course, didn't go on to win, but I think that could be a good experience for him moving forward. So Joe Highsmith was the one who stood out to me the most from this range. I'm actually going to lock him in for sure. I'm going to bet Joe Highsmith just looking at his numbers here again for a second time. So I'm officially in on Glover, Hoy, and Joe Highsmith. I am considering Neil Shipley. 55-1.
I've seen some interest in him this week. By the way, I did not know that Kazire was like someone that people were on this week. So that just goes to show you I did not look at too much stuff this week of my own. So that usually I hate that, Jack. I hate that. Like you saying that, and I'm like, is that the right call? Like I almost want to change it now, but I'm like, there's too much to like for me.
It almost psychs you out. I hate it, but I definitely recommend you follow Golf Tips Checker on X. Good way to know throughout the course of the week. They retweet a bunch of people's posts of golf stuff, so you can kind of see and get a feel of who's popular or who's not. And every Tuesday afternoon, I think they're actually overseas. I think they're from the UK, but anyways, it's Tuesday afternoon here, and they post a most tip chart. And Patton Kazire was on it this week. And you're right. You see that, and you're like, oh, too many people are thinking the same thing. Now he's not going to. Like, it gets in your brain when you see those. But I do want that information. I'm an information wanter.
But they got another one of my guys on this list now. I just went to the freaking We'll get there. We're not there yet. But
For sure. But yeah, Neil Shipley is someone I'm thinking about as well. Regularly gaining significant strokes with his irons. He only has one top 40 in his last 4 starts, but I still think he's a really good player. I think he's a legit player. 55-1 is pretty good odds. But those were the guys I was thinking about in this range. And then after that, I think it's kind of just names to shout out names. Because honestly, if you're after 75-1 in this field, I don't really know what to tell you. And I don't know how deep personally you went. There's only 2 other guys that I'm really considering betting for the most part. But who are the names that you want to shout out past the 75-1 marker, Joey?
yeah, so I've got bets.
Okay, let's
so
hear them.
These are
Let's hear them.
Usually we just start like firing, but I feel like
I didn't mean to cut you short. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I usually do not like doing too many, but I got Alex Smalley, 90-1, Rivers enhanced, 5th in strokes gain on easy courses, top 25 in the field over the last 24 rounds in driving distance, birdie or better rate, strokes gain par 5, strokes gain approach, strokes gain off the tee. He flashed a little recently too at the Sanderson, so I think 90-1's a pretty damn good number there. Even at 75, I probably would have liked him too, actually. But consensus seems like 75-1 if you can find that price. Still do that. Alejandro Tosti.
Super popular.
I did not like seeing that just now. 90-1. And I saw his number earlier too in the week was like 110 or something like that, 100-1.
Yeah, he's been bet down.
So yeah, I think he's a strong candidate option for me though. Like before seeing that, love the personality. Obviously, the animation is great.
He's a good course fit. Like anywhere Alejandro Tosti can grip it and rip it, that's where you want him at. He had the runner up at to Steven Yeager at or was it to Yeager? Was it the runner up to Yeager?
Well, he was T2 at the Houston Open.
Was that Yeager? Why am I blanking now?
I don't know who had the Houston Open now.
Was it?
Is that what you're talking about?
Was it not Steven Yeager? Anyways, continue on. I'm gonna figure this out. But
yeah,
anywhere that Alejandro Tosti can grip it and rip it, I'm in it.
Yeah, man. Well, that's pretty much it. Like, I feel like he can just absolutely bomb it here. I do not love. Obviously, he doesn't have the accuracy. Really, he doesn't. But we don't need it here. It doesn't matter. The approach kind of worries me, to be honest. That's the one part where I'm like, like there's some things to be questioning here. But I feel like down south, Alejandro Tosti, he's gonna be feeling right at home. He's gonna be feeling toasty. We might as well just let him grip it and rip it and see what happens. Past that, man, there's a couple other guys, one for sure and one that I'm kind of questioning. Don't know if I'm going to do it or not, but could be worth a dart throw. I got the Smother Man.
Oh, Mr. Irons.
Yeah, I've been down this road before, and how'd
it go?
It didn't go good. Let's just say I'm pretty sure the 2 times I've mentioned it on the show, he was either dead last or like close to dead last.
He'll do that.
So, I mean, we're 150-1. It has to be something like that. Otherwise, I'm never considering it.
Austin Smotherman is a great example of what I was talking about earlier with Daniel Berger. His goods are super good. His bads are just bad.
That's what I'm worried about here.
But his goods are good. Same, but different.
Same. Oh man, he's first strokes gain approach though. Last 24 rounds.
Yes, he is.
So there's that. He's gonna need to putt like he did at the Pro Card Championship though. Like looking at that, he finished T7. Can he do that? That's a big if. I don't know, man, but it's good enough for me. 11th off the tee lately. It's good enough for me. Just going to throw a shot there. The other guy here is 175-1, and I have not done it yet, but I feel like Chez Reavie. Last 24 rounds, 5th in strokes gain approach, 23rd in putting. So if we're looking at approach and we're looking at putting or birdie or better, Chez Reavie, the vet, could be a little bit sneaky, I feel like, at 175. But that's about it, man. Other than that, I really just need to make a decision in that those 3 golfers that we mentioned between Spawn, Mitchell, and Berger. You got anything else?
Yeah, I got to decide whether or not I'm going to bet Max Grazerman. Really, really tough. I'm with you on Alex Smalley, one of the best pass pollen players on the PGA Tour. You mentioned the distance has been good, the irons have been really good. Popped in his second to last start, so I'm in on Alex Smalley. I thought that was a really good number. The other guy I wanted to mention is a little bit of a stone's throw down, but 200 and what's the biggest number you can get on him?
Oh Lord.
270 to 1. Brandon Wu,
All right.
who on the PGA Tour, he has 4 top 3 finishes. 2 of them were at the Mexico Open, the other was at the Puerto Rico Open. So this guy, coastal golf courses, those are his jam. Hasn't really been popping any sort of consistency as of late, but did finish T13 at the Procore, T10 at the ISCO Championship earlier on in the summer, in which he gained 6.5 strokes with his irons, 5 strokes with his putter. That's the combination you need to compete at these type of tournaments. 270 to 1, I think, is a pretty good number for a guy who finished in 2 consecutive years runner-up to John Rahm and Tony Finau when they won the Mexico Open. So had they have not been there, perhaps
Brandon, just them? Just those guys?
Those were the only guys that beat him in back-to-back Mexico Opens.
That's pretty. It's actually pretty good that he was up in that field, though, with that type of caliber. Yeah,
exactly. Resort golf courses, Brandon Wu, literally number 1 in terms of averaging finishing position on regular courses versus pass pollen. The difference, he's number 1. Really good on pass pollen courses. So I'll give him a shot at 271. He was the dart throw that I was thinking about from way down. Outside of that, no one really caught my eye too much. Adam Schenk, 150 to 1, I just think is an absurd number of how hard he's fallen in the last year since we've been doing this show, Joey.
Yeah, we've been on the Schenk. We've been betting him quite a bit, and that's a really far fall from grace.
Yeah, it is. I thought about Pearson Cootie. I know he's super popular this week. The dude literally just cannot align his irons and his putter. He either putts really well or hits his irons really well. He can't seemingly do both at the same time, but a bomber should be a course fit. I did think about Alejandro Tosti a little bit. I think he's a good first-round leader bet. The guy does really well in the first round, I've noticed, for whatever reason. Last name I wanted to shout out from down low was Carson Young, 80 to 1. I was kind of in a battle between Alex Smalley and Carson Young because they're almost kind of the same player, like super undersized, super small, but hit their irons really well and sometimes can putt. I just ended up going with Alex Smalley because he's the one with better numbers on pass pollen surfaces. But yeah, that's really it for me, man. I got Rico Hoy locked in, got Lucas Glover locked in, going to get on Joe Highsmith, Joey Bucket Hats at 70 to 1, and then just need to make a decision if I'm going to squeeze Max Grazerman in there, because if I do, that's going to be it for my card. And if not, then maybe I think about Harris English 28 to 1, Johnny Vegas 33 to 1, Matt Kuchar 35 to 1. So that's what I need to decide. Do I add one more guy at the top, or do I add 2 more guys in the middle?
Well, you know what my answer is going to be, because I kind of started out the whole show here kind of bashing on Grazerman, and it wasn't directed at him. I just hate that price. So
no, it's tough, but oh man, I was having literally, last thing I'll leave you with, everyone, before Joey and I go to our one and dones. I was literally having this thought as I was driving to work today. If Max Grazerman were to win this tournament, and I weren't, if Max Grazerman were to win this tournament and I didn't have money on him, I feel like I would have learned nothing throughout the course of this year. Because regardless of what the number is, when guys show you signs, they show you signs. And even though they might have that runner-up choking narrative, you got to brush past those, because the numbers never lie. And look at the type of year that Xander Schauffele went on to have after he broke everyone's hearts earlier on in the year, and nobody wanted anything to do with him. Yeah, Max Grazerman at 16 to 1 in this field is certainly tough, but man, he's been knocking on the door and has been playing better golf over the last 3 months than anyone who doesn't have a win. So that's kind of where I'm torn at the top.
You got to stick with your guns, man. If that's how you're feeling too, and he obviously has been recently just in a zone. If that's how you're feeling, and you know you're going to be pissed at yourself for not doing it, stick to your guns, dude. Absolutely.
The tough part about it too is I bet Cameron Young 14 to 1 here last year like a bozo, and I think he missed the cut. So that's tough.
And he's back at 20 to 1.
Doesn't give me good memories of betting the favorite in this tournament. So I got some decisions to make, but let's get to one and done, Joey. Oh, it is still me. I forgot I completely closed out of odds checker real quick.
Who did you have at Zozo? I kind of forgot.
I had Andrew Putnam. We actually tied at the Zozo. You got a good final round out of where's my sheet? I don't know where I put this right now. Who'd you have at the Zozo? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I don't remember either now.
You used someone noteworthy. Anyways, I'll get back to that.
Right. Yeah, we'll look at it later. But yeah, who are you thinking here? Because I'm kind of caught between two.
I'm gonna go Rico Hoy.
Damn, that was one of them I was caught between, so you just made the decision for me. I'm gonna go with Matty Schmid.
Yeah.
I like where he's at, and
good spot to use him, I think.
Yeah, it was either him or Gracerman, honestly. Like, even though I'm not gonna bet him in the outright market, I feel like that would be. But I feel like I did the same thing at the Zozo, where I took somebody up towards the top that I thought would be really good, and didn't pan out. So, yeah, I think Matty Schmid has actually a really high floor right now too. So that's a good matchup. That's actually a really good head-to-head matchup. I wonder if they got that lined up somewhere.
Yeah, that's interesting. You took Doug Gim at the Zozo Championship, and he and Andrew Putnam both tied for 27. But I have the advantage because at the Shriners, you used Tom Kim, who missed the cut.
That's what it was. That's what the one I was thinking of, where I took Tom Kim as a favorite at. That's right, at the Shriners. Yep.
Yeah.
Terrible.
What can you do?
Yeah.
All right. I think that's going to wrap up this episode of Golf on Tap. Thank you to everyone who tuned in on this crummy tournament during the FedEx Cup Fall. We greatly appreciate you. And be sure to go and follow Golf on Tap for free wherever you may be listening to your podcast. That way you can catch up with us, even if you're not able to join us live. Also, be sure to go and check out ontapsportsnet.com for all the latest Chicago sports needs. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox, as Joey always forgets, and of course, golf. So be sure to check out ontapsportsnet.com. Best of luck to everyone this week in Cabo. Would be great to cash an outright, particularly after a heartbreaker last time for me at the Zozo. Best of luck, everyone. Until next time, crack 'em, lock 'em, cash some tickets, and we'll see you next week.
No more bozos, PGA. Later.